Greetings of death, loyal metal milieu followers. Once again, it is me, Michael the Metal Angel, here to talk about all things metal and support the total metal scene, the metal milieu. Last time, if you remember, I talked about the Mighty Anvil and one of the best metal bands of all time, invented speed metal, Canadians and all that. I probably should have pointed out that I have Hope in Hell on vinyl. I got a limited edition version that came with vinyl. Also got the digipack, also got the t-shirt. But not only that, I also, thanks to a friend, have the limited edition Speed and Sound EP, which is actually a shaped CD, which you won't even play in most CD players made today. I mean, this is like really, you gotta have like a pop-up boombox from like the late 80s, early 90s. Stryper did the same thing with In God We Trust. It's got songs from other Anvil albums like Blood on the Ice, Dr. Kevorkian, Old Schools, and of course Speed of Sound, and of course Metal on Metal. And you know, when I saw the guys and supported them for the movie, you know, they signed my little postcard. The reason I want to talk about that is because we're talking about amazing drummers, and we talked about the phenomenal work of, you know, drummers that are unappreciated, like Rob Reiner and the godfather of drumming, Carmen Appice, who trained all the drummers, including, you know, none other than John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. Well, the reason I want to talk about that is because I want to talk about another heavy metal drummer who is highly adored but seldom really recognized, and that is Carl Canedy from the Rods. That's right, the Rods, New York hard rock heavy metal, still going strong, still playing great stuff. But not only that, Carl Canedy, besides being an amazing drummer and besides being in the Rods, he continues to do other projects, which is great. He has a band called St. James, which is kind of a hard rock thing, but he's still going strong with that. He has, you know, he was once in Thrasher with member of the Rods. He, believe it or not, maybe you don't know this, he was once one of the original drummers of Manowar. And, you know, he worked with, you know, John and Marshall Zazula and with Megaforce and all that. And the Rods music is, you know, available now. It's remastered. You can get great versions of Wild Dogs. And they just played Ragnarrocker a couple years ago, and I did not, unfortunately, get to see them, but I heard it was a great show. And, you know, he also did the drums for the thrash band Killian, and they've got the reunion. But I actually want to talk about this other band that he has. It's actually the first time available on CD, and this is the band Calicos. And this is also, and it was long time, you know, kind of under the table. No one knew that, you know, none other than Carl Canedy was the actual drummer for Calicos, because this is kind of a 70s acid rock band. You know, I don't want to say Zeppelin and Blue Cheer and obligatory stuff like that, but if you like the newer stuff like The Answer or Scorpion Child and stuff like that, you can kind of relate. But Calicos, this is music that's over 40 years old, but they're active and they're working on brand new material. And I was so grateful when Carl sent me all this, because, you know, he sent me, you know, an actual postum. His postum is the Rods, and hit the drums that say the Rods, Carl Canedy and Michael, so thanks for all the support. And, you know, and if you're a Rods fan and you listen to this Canedy album, you'll also notice that, wow, there are Rods songs on here. And you may have also noticed that I'm wearing a Possessed Beyond the Gate shirt. The reason I'm wearing a Possessed Beyond the Gate shirt is because Carl Canedy produced Possessed final EP, Eyes of Horror. And, you know, if you're a Possessed fan, you're going to love my next segment, so that's just a hint. He also did Fistful of Metal by Anthrax. And maybe you don't know this if you're not really familiar with the Rods, but, you know, Rob Feinstein, he calls himself Rob Rock Feinstein, David Rock Feinstein, my bad, David Rock Feinstein, was none other than Ronnie James Dio's cousin. And some of the last material that Ronnie James Dio ever recorded was with, you know, Feinstein on the last Feinstein album. And if you can find the Feinstein solo stuff, if you can find the Rock Feinstein, like he's got Feinstein, he's got David Rock Feinstein, and he's got the Rods. And the Rods even teamed up with none other than Veronica of Benedictum, the band from San Diego, female-fronted. And once again, I bring up female-fronted because I'm going to be talking about female-fronted stuff, because not Nightwish and not Epica, but true female-fronted heavy metal. So we're bringing it all together. We're talking about bands that basically set the border for thrash. I mean, you cannot deny who the Rods were and still are, still kicking. It's great to see that, you know, Carl is willing to tell you that he was once in a hippie acid rock. I actually saw Duro last night, talk about awesome, amazing female-fronted metal, and then my friend said, hey, let's go see this hippie fest. My brother can put us on the guest list, and I could not believe I was at a hippie fest. It was a microcosm of Burning Man and Woodstock, with all these kids half my age basically doing what their grandparents did at Woodstock. But, you know, I can totally relate. They would totally like a band like Calicos. Matter of fact, one of the bands I saw, talk about heavy metal instruments, the guy had a tuba on stage, and it sounded like good old Fishbone. They even did a Rage Against the Machine cover. They did a phenomenal cover of burning down the house, you know, and, you know, by Talking Heads. And it's just, it was really cool. And to see all these, you know, kids. But it just goes to show, we were probably the only two metalheads, me wearing a Warlock shirt, but we were probably the only two metalheads at that hippie fest. But, you know, when I listen to Calicos, it's hippie acid rock. When I listen to, you know, Canedy, it's metal as for metal's sake. And, you know, when you listen to Anvil, Anvil is Anvil. So, you know, join me next time when I, you know, continue to support, promote, and, you know, advocate all things metal, and stay true.